Are you ready for an open discussion with the best of the best and the best of what's next? Welcome to the Tony DUrso Show. Join in on a great conversation today with some of the world's great influencers as they showcase great advice and techniques that made them the game changers they are today. Now, here's Tony DUrso.
Welcome, I'm your host, Tony DUrso. Once again, I'm pleased to have you join us. And at the time of this recording, we have 17 million listens throughout my podcasting career. And now with you, we have one more. I want to say I owe a lot to you for faithfully listening every week and sharing with your friends. We make a very good team. And as you know, this is all designed to help you and your friends turn your vision into reality. And today we're chatting with someone at the top of their category, an elite entrepreneur, and we are going to learn quite a bit. I'm going to learn a lot as well. We're going to discuss how to explode your referrals with Seth Greene. And I just want to say at the outset that no matter what you do for your business, having referrals do more business with your company is always a good thing. And it's job security. Check this out. Seth Greene is the nation's foremost authority on growing your business with a podcast. He's the co-host of the Sharkpreneur podcast with Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington that was just named, are you ready, one of the top 10 podcasts to listen to in 2019 by NASDAQ. So listen to that show as well as mine. And by the way, if you are hearing this on Apple Podcasts, would you please rate my show? And if you don't have Apple, that's fine. The Tony DUrso Show is everywhere. Roku, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. And you can also go to TonyDUrso.com/review and drop a kind one. I appreciate it very much. All right, now let's get into it. Hi, Seth. Welcome to the Tony DUrso Show.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. I am super excited.
The honor is mine because I'm going to learn a lot about you. I'm going to learn today how to explode my referrals. And
yes, you are.
I'm looking forward to that. I've got a lot of questions about it. As you probably know, I've done marketing, promotion, sales for a great many years. But you know what? After all these years, even after a couple books, there's still so much more to learn. So we're going to pick your brains today. But first, let's kind of set this a little bit. How did it all start for you? What's your backstory?
Sure. So I'll try and do a short version of that. At the age of 18, I wanted to be a Broadway star. So I went to Syracuse University for their top-rated musical theater program. But at the end of my first semester, my father told me I was going to have to move home, transfer to a local school, live at home, get a job and work and do chores around the house because he couldn't afford it. So that freaked me out. And I called my mom in tears. She told me they'd figure it out and that he had just gotten the tuition bill. This happened every single semester. So I realized maybe I don't want to starve in New York as a waiter. Maybe there's a better way. So I became a college financial aid planner to help families cut the cost of college. I did finish the theater degree as well. I went to work for a Fortune 500 financial services firm as a financial advisor, where they taught me the opposite of exploding my referrals. They taught me to make 300 cold calls a day, interrupt strangers, ask them for money before the advent of the internet, email, and social media and the do not call list. I absolutely hated making cold calls. I still to this day hate it. And I had the good fortune to find the #1 marketing consultant in the country, a legendary guru by the name of Dan Kennedy. I was able to beg my wife for 30 days in a row to let me go borrow more than our mortgage to go work with Dan. Thankfully, she said yes after I nagged her for 30 days in a row. And then in less than 2 years, I had went from the lowest ranked financial advisor out of 6,700 at the firm to being in the top 30 nationwide. And this was, again, I was in my early 20s. I was competing against people who had been doing it twice as long as I've even been alive. That got me written about in the company newsletter. It got me written about in a couple trade journals for financial advisors and a couple books. And I started getting phone calls, again, all before the internet, from other advisors and agents saying, how do I do what you did? I want that. So I asked Dan what to do. He said, start a marketing company and do it for him, which I did 14 years ago. It started out as me and one financial advisor that I was willing to let try my stuff that I had created. And then it took off from there. And now we've served over almost 3,000 clients in every time zone on the planet and generated over 30 million prospects for our clients. So it's been an incredible roller coaster journey.
That is quite fascinating what you've done. Now, you went from working for a company and being in the top sales, and then at some point you decided, hey, I can do this on my own. I can do even better. I think a lot of us have had that when we've shifted from the corporate job to the world of being an entrepreneur. I did it because for me, I saw, hey, I could do this for my own self, for my own company, and my income wouldn't be pegged. I'm curious where and when and how that vision came for you.
So that start around 2006. I had been fighting with compliance for a number of years, sales prevention department, trying to do this type of direct response marketing that I learned. I was frustrated fighting with them. A.G. Edwards at the time had just rolled out $1 billion branding campaign with a new logo. And I was at a meeting where the VP of marketing was going from office to office all over the country, telling everybody how fabulous this was. And I raised my hand and I said, what was our return on investment? And he said, what do you mean? I said, I'm a shareholder. You just spent $1 billion of my money on this branding campaign. How much money did we make? What was the trackable direct response? And he said, we didn't track anything. We have anecdotal evidence of people calling because they saw the ad on TV or in the Wall Street Journal, and in focus groups, the recognition of our logo is up and blah, 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 blah. But I said, so we're an investment company. We track returns for our shareholders every day, for our investors. But we didn't track it. We don't know. Nobody thought to track this. No. I said, that's my writing on the wall. I need to listen to Dan and go start my own company, not only as a financial advisor, but also a marketing firm to help other advisors. And obviously we branched out to 63 industries over the last 14 years. But when this multi-billion dollar Fortune 500 company said, we have no way to track it, and I said, I know how to track it, that was the writing on the wall for me.
I'm quite impressed. And to think that someone or a company, and I understand how that goes. I've been in corporate America for like 32 years, but $1 billion and not really know the results that today with the technology we have is beyond astounding. But that's fine, because we're going to get into what you do and how you do. But first, I want to understand, why do you do this, Seth? What's the overriding purpose behind this? Why are you doing it?
Our purpose is to create cutting edge marketing campaigns that deliver amazing results for our business owners, clients, and transform their lives. The number one, what is it? Like 90-something% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years. Half of marriages end in divorce. The number one reason given for divorce most commonly is fighting about money. Well, business owners have more money stress, presumably, than almost anybody else. If we can, as a firm, can create marketing that generates them new customers and new referrals, if I can solve that money issue, then maybe that business doesn't fail. Maybe that marriage stays together. Maybe those kids grow up in a happy home. That's worth getting up in the morning for me.
I'm with you on that. There are too many businesses that fail. And I think with the recent events, let's be very kind. It's even tougher. A preponderance of businesses, unfortunately, are failing, even successful ones at that. So we have to be really, if I can say, even more smarter, on point, and knowing what's going on. And for the audience here, you can find Seth at growyourown.cult.com. Now, I know it sounds a little weird, but we're talking about getting a lot of referrals for you. We're talking about getting a lot of followers. And I really believe that this will help you quite a bit. So check out growyourown.cult.com. And that's YOURGROWYOUROWNCULT.com. It's a cute name, but it will stick. And you're always going to remember that, I'm sure. And let's find out a little bit more about this. Let's get into your vision path, Seth, and kind of maybe go back just a little bit, because I remember in reading about what you've done that you, as a rookie, you landed $100 million pension fund. And I'm really curious about that story, and if that's how your current process developed.
It did. So I had done an internship in college at Merrill Lynch. And when I got out of college, I came back and applied for a job, and they said no. They don't hire rookies. They said, go somewhere else, get your licenses, build up a book of business for 5 years, then come back and talk to us. And it doesn't matter that you interned here. And I was really frustrated about that. And in that interview, that recruiting manager had told me, even though they wouldn't hire me for at least 5 years, he gave me all these reasons why I should want to work in Merrill Lynch and why it was so great, and how they had just landed $100 million pension fund because of his expert tutelage of that advisor. So when I was banging my head against the wall making cold calls, I said, there's got to be a better way. And then I started learning from Dan Kennedy, and I realized there was a better way. And I decided to test that better way out. So Dan told me, you need to be perceived as an authority. People need to see you as an expert. And I said, I'm young, I'm dumb, I don't know anything yet. How am I going to be an expert? And he said, well, in the word authority is the word author. Authors in our society are perceived as experts. You're an expert. In addition to everything else you've done, you've written quite a few books. So he said, write a book. I said, again, I don't know anything to write a book about. And he gave me a book that changed my life. He gave me the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which I know you're a fan of. And I realized reading Think and Grow Rich, it was an interview book. Napoleon Hill didn't know any of that stuff. He interviewed 500 of the most successful people of his time and wrote what he learned. I said, I can interview people. The first person I thought of to interview was the president of the board of trustees of that union pension fund. So that the recruiting manager had managed said specifically who he was 3 times, which was a mistake on his part, but he thought he was bragging. So I cold called the union, but I didn't call them to get their pension fund. I said, I want to interview you for a book. And he said, oh my God, that'd be great, right? Ego stroke. I've never been interviewed for a book before. Sign me up. So I went and did my interview. And at the end of the interview, he says to me, that was great. I never take the time to think about how our union has grown and what we've done for the brotherhood and how I got to where I am. This was so much fun. He said, every 4 years, we have to put our pension fund out to bid. Any financial advisor who wants can come pitch for our business so that we've done our due diligence and we either keep our current provider or we switch. He said, pitch day's in 2 weeks. Do you want to be the new advisor who pitches on pitch day? And I said, absolutely. I would love that. I didn't even know. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I then ran frantically back to my office and burst in on my branch manager and said, I'm pitching for a $100 million pension fund and I have no clue what I'm doing. I think I had a dozen clients and half of them were related to me at the time. So we worked frantically with the home office for weeks preparing that proposal. They assured me they would not let me touch a dime of the $100 million. I wasn't going to be managing the money, which is good because I didn't know anything then. So I went to the meeting. I was the last advisor to pitch because I was the new guy. When it was my turn, I went into the conference room. There were 6 business cards on the table of every advisor who had pitched before me. I did something then that I would not do now. I was younger, dumber, and more cocky and arrogant. I picked up those business cards, made a little pile, ripped them in half, threw them on the floor, said, you don't need these anymore. And I dropped copies of my book on the table and slid one down to each member of the board of directors and then gave my pitch. After my pitch, they asked me to sit outside in the waiting room. There was no one else in the waiting room. Every other advisor had gone home. It was Friday. They were going to find out Monday who won. The receptionist, she was just sitting there. It was 5 o'clock and the door closed. I'm sitting out there and I start hearing voices get louder and louder and like yelling. I couldn't make out the words, but they did not sound happy. I looked at the receptionist. I said, what do I do? She said, I don't know. Good luck. And she left for the day. So half an hour later, they called me back in and they said, half of us thought it was really rude and disrespectful of you to rip up those business cards and thought that we should kick you out. Our treasurer wanted to punch you in the face. The other half of our room thought that you should get the business because you're the only guy who wrote a book. Everyone else brought a PowerPoint. You brought a book. I took a step back in case he took a swing at me. And I said, who won? And he said, you got the business because you wrote the book. And that made the beginning of my career because rookie lands, 100 million, pension fund. Some of those clients, it's been many, many years. Some of those clients are still with me to this day.
Seth, I know you said, and you advised everyone to not do it, but I'm going to counter that and say, that is the best thing I've ever heard. If you go to a meeting and there's all these business cards there, take them, throw them, burn them, stomp on them. And you don't need this anymore. Why? Because I wrote the book. I absolutely love it. I understand that you were a rookie at the time and you may feel that you didn't do it right, but what a powerful statement. That was just really great marketing. And I think you've got a really good knack on that because of what you've done. Writing that book, what a great way to interview and get the job or get the job from not fund, get the deal, get the contract from a very big CEO. I really like that. I think that's good. And I think that will help a lot with anyone that wants to podcast, because you can write the book, but you could also contact the CEO and or someone in the industry that you're going to. Maybe I'm going ahead of myself and ask to interview them. But we'll talk about more about that. There's a couple different angles that I want to go on, but the one thing that you talked also about, which I think a lot of us have done at some point in our careers, is cold calling. I'm basically Italian. I think everyone knows that. I beat it to death sometimes. I believe in relationships and a handshake and a smile and how are you and that. And I had the cold call on a lot of sales jobs and I hated it. How do you get somebody who never knows you with some clever lines and some clever statements and they're all of a sudden supposed to be your instant friend and do a contract with you? It was brutal. And some of us to this day are still cold calling or maybe a hybrid. How do we stop it forever? You've got some points on that. We want to learn from you on this.
Absolutely. So I learned that I figured out that interviewing someone is the way in the door, which morphed from interviewing in person to interviewing on a podcast, which I know we're going to talk about, is the greatest way in the door I've ever seen that's not perceived as salesy in any way, shape, or form. You're interviewing me right now. You're my new best friend. You're putting me on your platform. If you asked me, which you should, to promote this episode, I will happily do that to my following, introducing them to you. Some of them will become 17 million in one, 17 million in two. Some of them will become your people. I'm happy about that. If you said, hey, Seth, I need a favor. Can you do something else for me? I would say, of course I would. It's the best way to open a door I've ever found. And I've tried pretty much everything. So not only does it get you in the door without a cold call, it's also a great way to generate referrals because technically you're interviewing me. I'm going to promote it. I am referring my people to you. And I could interview my existing clients on my show, which I've done, because they'll then talk in the 20, 30-minute interview. They'll talk about our relationship and I will get a video and audio testimonial. And when they're on my show, they're not going to throw the episode away and hit delete. They're going to tell everybody they know, look at me, I was on this show, which is an implied endorsement and referral. And some of those people are going to become my people. So it's the greatest door opener from a non-salesy, salesly point of view. And it's also one of the greatest referral generation secrets as well.
You know, a lot of what you say, of course, is extremely correct. I've run into that myself. Another facet on podcasting and interviewing is you learn, especially if you interview people in your industry. You learn so much. I probably mentioned this earlier at the very beginning. I've done a lot of things in my career, and I've even written a few books, but it's not possible to know everything. You know, and I say this, you cannot literally read everybody's book, take everybody's seminar, listen to everybody's podcast, go to everybody's webinar, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not possible. And that's where a podcaster helps because we'll curate and bring to our audience people of a certain theme or genre or whatever, experts that can help them. So that really works out. And again, we just can't learn everything. But if we bring on people in our industry who share a little wisdom, not only are you developing that relationship with someone that perhaps you'd like to do business with, but they're also teaching you in the course of that interview. So you're getting mentored at the same time. It's quite something to podcast.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite ancillary benefits. Kevin and I interviewed earlier today Michael Gerber, the author of The E-Myth, the best-selling business book of all time. One thing he said in that half-an-hour interview gave me an idea, a page of notes, and it's going to totally transform our revenue to a whole completely different level. I've interviewed Russell Brunson, the founder of ClickFunnels, twice at two different times on my show. I asked him, we have parallel lives. He's got a lot more money than me, but when he was dealing with the challenge of growing ClickFunnels so fast, I had the same issue with my company, and I got to pick his brain about how he was doing it. When we were having issues hiring and staffing and training fast enough, he was dealing with the similar type of thing at a much bigger level, but I got to ask him how he was dealing with that. Both of those answers helped transform my business. And the only way I would ever get someone like Russell Brunson to let me pick his brain for that period of time would be pay $50,000 to join a mastermind group and fly to Boise, Idaho, and get to ask him. Whereas on a podcast, I get to ask him or Tony Robbins or Michael Gerber something for free.
I also think Russell Brunson, whom I've also had the great distinction and pleasure of interviewing twice, I believe it's $10,000 to have lunch with him. But if you can get him on your podcast,
Exactly.
There you go, pick his brains. And by the way, I am interviewing Michael Gerber in about 2 weeks from now. So for my audience here who's listening, stay tuned. It's coming up soon. This is really interesting because there's so much to podcasting. There is the monetization aspect, which is really trying. There are, I don't even know the new numbers anymore, but prior to, let's call it the events of 2020, just prior to that, 75% of podcasters per Blueberry disappeared. In fact, there's even a word in the dictionary called pod fade. An average podcaster, literally an average, does 7, 8, 9, 10 podcasts and disappears. I know quite a few of them. They'll do shows. They'll seem like they're doing great. And then all of a sudden they're out. And it's quite something to monetize. Now, with my business, I help bring visitors to podcasts. I help grow their Instagram followers. I do things like that. But it is so much work to monetize. And I'm always giving off little tidbits and advice and guidance here. But that really is a key thing. And I think you've got something, I don't know if I'm shooting ahead of myself, but I think you also help podcasters monetize their shows.
That is absolutely correct. Now, there's two different types in my tech categories of podcast monetization. The one I prefer to focus on is the profitable relationships that come out of a podcast. So not everybody's going to be the next Tony, right? They're not going to get 17 million downloads. That took you a long time to build, a lot of work, a lot of expertise, and a lot of investment. Most people are never going to hit those kind of numbers. You mentioned the 75% of podcasters that disappear. And there's 1.9 million podcasts out there. So we prefer to focus on the profitable relationships because you and I do business together as a result of being on that show. That's revenue that came from the start of the podcast relationship. I get a client, I get a referral, I get to do a speaking engagement with 200 attorneys where I get to promote my services because of the person that I interviewed who put me in front of their audience. So to me, that's a lot more predictable, systematic, and scalable, and anyone can achieve that. I mean, we had a golf coach who generated 6 figures with his podcast in his first couple months just because of how we did it. So it's not, to me, about the 17 million listens or downloads because most people won't achieve that. I created the process because, again, I interviewed in my 7th book, Market Domination for Podcasting, I interviewed the top podcasters like John Lee Dumas and with, again, hundreds of millions of downloads and said, how did you do it? How'd you monetize? And they all had similar answers. It was ad revenue. It was sponsorships. It was affiliates. It was all the standard stuff. And I said, what if we're podcasting for a financial advisor in Buffalo, New York, where I live? He's never going to get 1 million downloads. He'd be lucky if he gets 5,000. I said, I got to figure out a way for him to make money with no downloads. Our golf coach made that $100,000, had less than 100 downloads. It's all about the right people and the right relationships, in my opinion. That's easier to scale for anyone than trying to get them to be the next Tony DUrso.
That's a really, really great point because we have our niche and the niche may not have 17 million or whatever. Totally get it. And again, one important point here is let's just be kind of simple. There's 2 ways to podcast. You could podcast about what you're good at. You're a coach, you're a golf instructor, you're a financial manager. You can podcast about what you're good at. And of course, some people may want to hack what they're doing because they could be an accountant. They could be working at a store as a manager or something, but it's not necessarily their love. So I always say, well, podcast what you what's going to bring you either your sustenance, because that's what you do, or something that you really love doing, and build that. So there's a couple different ways to do it. And if you podcast about what you love, the golf instructor obviously really likes the golf, I would think, or he's not going to get $100,000 in business. Because some people, another school of thought, which I think is a prevailing school of thought, and I'm not going to mention any names, say just make money. Don't do anything you like, just go for the money. And we're not going to talk about who pushes all that, but it doesn't sustain. It doesn't last forever, especially when we have world events putting things in a yo-yo roller coaster position. It doesn't cut it. But if you do something that you really enjoy and you really love and you push it, you'll get up whether you make less money tomorrow or not. You'll get up because you love it. And what I think is part of the success of this is that, because it's what is let's call it your job. You may be working for yourself, but now it's your job. It's what you're doing because you love it. And I think that that's really powerful in bringing and connecting with people to generate the income for your podcast.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'd love to plus that to another level and say, not only do I want you to do what you love, I'm hoping there's a Venn diagram. I'm hoping that what you do for money, for work, and something you're passionate about intersect and are some way, hopefully the same thing. I'm hoping the financial advisor isn't punching a time clock and hating his job, and then he's not going to like podcasting about it. He's going to pod fade and he's going to disappear in 7 episodes. But if he absolutely loves helping people make smart decisions about their money, in my example, our college financial aid firm, I absolutely love cutting the cost of college. I mean, we got a testimonial yesterday from someone who saved $100,000 on their college education. That gets me excited, and I would happily podcast all day long about that, and it makes me money.
I like that. And we talk about exploding our referrals, and we've talked a few things here. And for those that really get what we're saying and really tracking with the conversation here, there's a lot of great nuggets on how to really ramp up whatever you're doing. But I know there's more. I know there's more that we can do to get referrals, to get word of mouth. Let's talk about some other ideas and possibilities, or not, I shouldn't say possibilities, other actions that we can take.
Sure. I'm happy. I know we don't have all day. You and I could probably do a 3-day seminar on it. I'll give you a couple quick ones. Number one, social media has made this so much easier, because now before I would meet with a client, now I can research them online. I can go on their Facebook and find other people that they're connected to. LinkedIn is huge for this because I can see the connections we have in common. So before, when we would ask or promote for referrals, it was just, who do you know who? Or, hey, who do you know from church? Or who do you know from work? Now you could literally say, hey, Tony, I see that you've got an interview with Michael Gerber coming up. If I hadn't already interviewed him, I would say, he's my hero. He's the inspiration for our software company. I'd love to have him on and get the chance to say thank you. And you would go, happy to make that introduction for you. I have done my homework. Another great example, I think, is looking to see, what do your clients care about other than you? Where else do they go? Because they're not just businesses that need marketing. That business is owned by a father. He has kids. He plays golf. He goes out to Ruth's Chris with his wife. What are the psychographics? Because again, those are also on social media. I can go on Facebook and see what restaurants you checked in at. And if someone sends you a Cheesecake Factory gift card, thanks for having me on the show, you might say, hey, that's great. But if they know that Mary Ann's Pasta House is your favorite restaurant because you checked in 4 times and it's local to you, and they have to call and physically order it over the phone and get it mailed to them and then sent to you, the amount of reciprocity and goodwill it's going to generate with you is going to go to a whole nother level, because you're going to be like, oh my God, one of our employees today, we celebrated her birthday today, and my wife brought in the dessert. And my wife is famous for her baking in her office. And at first, Our visual designer was all excited. Oh my God, it's one of Rebecca's trifles. I'm so excited. This looks beautiful. It's strawberry, blah, blah, blah. And then she starts eating it and she goes, oh my God, the center is lemon. How did she know? That's my favorite flavor. I can't believe it's strawberry and lemon. It's my this is amazing. And research. You got to do your homework. In this day and age, there's no excuse not to. The data's all free. There's no privacy anymore. You might as well use it.
That's really good points. They're really good points. I really like that. And I know that you have a system on getting micro bloggers to like really push it, because we can do these, we can research, we can refer, we can grow our social media. We need help in all of this. Now, between you and I, we could probably be very dangerous and help a lot of companies and a lot of people really grow really fast. We all know something, and together we know more than we knew individually, right? And one of the things that I know you do is you've got micro bloggers, if I'm saying it right, really kind of help become part of the army that pushes one. So I don't mean skip that. I'll have to edit that out anyways, or leave it in as a blooper. How do we get more people to push us? Because we can only say so much. Hey, check out my podcast, check out my podcast, check out my podcast on social media. But when others say it, it's a whole different thing.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest strategy is you're interviewing people on your show. They're promoting that they were on your show. It's a feather in their hat, and they're exposing their audience to you with an implied endorsement, just like we've been talking about this whole time. This is only for your people. You can't share this elsewhere. This is an advanced strategy. But if you take the transcript of your podcast episode, edit it into a blog post, the person who you interviewed will also promote the blog post. Now you could take that to a whole nother level where we could turn every transcript into a little ebook. We publish the ebook, the PDF file, on Amazon as an ebook on Kindle for like 99 cents. My goal is not to make any money selling that 99 cents. My goal is, if I've had Tony on my show, I put Tony as the co-author of the ebook. And I tell Tony, ask for his permission, I'll donate all the 99-cent sales to charity. Tony, to his favorite cause. Tony will now promote my ebook, and that author name is now listed on Amazon. So the next time someone goes to Amazon and types in Tony's name, they will also see that ebook with my name on it. Some of them will buy that ebook and come to me. That's how, if you searched, depending on the time frame, if you search Russell Brunson, if you search Kevin Harrington, if you search Dr. Ivan Meisner from BNI, you find me. They're looking for them. I show up. They get my thing. We get leads from Amazon like that every single day. Of people going, I was looking for somebody else, but somehow I found yours and signed me up for whatever you got.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. I'm learning something new every day. Who would have thought? Because once upon a time, we used to do books. It was a short fad of doing interviews and then putting multiple interviews in a book. I did a book that way called Elite Entrepreneurs, became a bestseller, did very well. But it was also a little big. And I think people like smaller books. So the ebook with just an interview, I think, is very, very smart. Obviously, you're doing very, very well at it. And it goes with the prevailing thought of people wanting to read something more succinct, more to the point, and get to the root of it faster.
Yeah, not everybody. I wish they all did. Not everybody wants to listen to our podcast. Not everybody wants to watch the video. There are people who prefer to read, and we want to get them on every form of media. If they prefer to read, go get it on Amazon and download it and read it on your Kindle or your device. You want to listen to it, you want to watch it, we've got you every single place. We're everywhere, omnipresent all the time.
Great stuff. And Seth, we're always on the lookout. What helps take our success, it takes our business to the next level. And one of the things that I've learned is the personal habits of the elite entrepreneurs that I interview. They always have these great, interesting personal habits that when you think about it, you start taking some of those because you see that how helpful that is to creating the success of your vision. So I'm curious, what personal habits do you have that you feel contribute to your success?
I swear by my morning routine. I was originally inspired by Tony Robbins and Craig Ballantyne of the Perfect Day Formula, and I've put my own twists on it. I am a huge technology fan. So I have a Whoop bracelet. I have a Happy mental emotional device that changes my mood. I have a headset with lights and things on it that change my brain waves. I've got a Muse meditation headset. So I use them all in conjunction, a specific formula that I created in a specific sequence of events that get me in peak performance at the beginning of my day. So I've already won. And then the rest of the day is awesome from there.
I like those habits. Thank you for sharing that. And Seth, are there any great resources that you would like to share with the entrepreneurs that are listening right now?
Yes, as you mentioned, we have a very special offer for your show. If they go to growyourown.cult.com, I've written a 37-page ebook about our exact process to grow a cult of 50 micro influencers who will promote your business every week for a year. That ebook normally sells on Amazon for $14. For your listeners at growyourown.cult.com, it is 50% off. I promise it will be the best $7 you ever invest in your marketing. If you're not thrilled, I'll give you your $7 back. Just go to growyourown.cult.com and grab your copy now.
I want that book. I want those micro bloggers. And if it just has one thing, just one that I hadn't thought of, it's worth untold amounts of money. So $7 is no biggie. Thank you for that offer. And that's at growyourown.cult.com.
Yes, and cult actually stands for something. When you read the ebook, you will learn the letters, what this letter CULT stands for, and you'll be fascinated by what you read. I guarantee it.
Do you want to tell us now? We got a few minutes.
I don't want to spill the beans. I want them to read it.
All right. What else can I ask you about? Because we still have a few more minutes here. I want to pick your brains. You've gotten such great points that I don't believe anyone has ever mentioned. In fact, now that I think about it, never heard these points before. You're a whole facet. There's a whole slice of that pie, if you want to look at it, that's been missing in terms of the knowledge. So let's pick your brains. Let's tell us some more. How can we promote our podcast and actually promote our business using a podcast?
So again, it's strategic. It's some of the principles that we've alluded to. The podcast, again, is designed as a relationship building tool. And then the most important thing is what happens after the show. So not only do we want our guest, our new referral, our new best friend to promote that they were on our show, but we have a multi-step direct mail strategy that goes to them after the show airs. The show is all about them. It goes to them after the show airs and gets them back on a second call. That second call is where we actually talk about doing business together or how our referral relationship could work, which we have a scripted, psychologically proven process that converts people at a really high level from being, yay, I did your podcast, I'm happy I was on it, to, yes, I will endorse you specifically to my tribe. I will email for you. I will social media post to promote your business. Because when they promote the show, they're promoting themselves. When I promote that I was here, I'm going to say, look at me, I was so fabulous. Tony had me on his show. I'm promoting myself. I'm taking you along for the ride, which is your benefit. However, you want me as your next step to say, hey, Sharkpreneur Nation, go buy Tony's stuff. Here's something to go get. Go get an ebook, go get a white paper, go get a book, go get a report, go attend a webinar. You want me to, instead of implicitly, but to directly promote you. And that all happens on the magic of our second call, which is what we call our show me the money call.
I like that. Absolutely great advice. And I can't wait to go get my book. So I'm going to bail in just a second. I just want to say we talked about how to explode your referrals with Seth Greene. And make sure you remember this, growyourown.cult.com. I'm very serious because every little thing that I can do to grow my own show and to increase has helped me get to where I am. I just didn't fall off a log, as they say, or fall out of bed, or I think I
turn up truck.
I screwed it up a little bit, or turn up whatever. You know, it's the advice from the elite entrepreneurs that I interview, and it's just learning from and reading, and I've been to schools and all that, but putting it all together and adding another and adding another and adding another, and before you know it, yeah, you've built a very tall building. You might be up there, but it's just all step by step. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate everything that you've had to give us on this, Seth. brilliant stuff. And you're talking to a person who's done a lot of podcast marketing. This is not gratification. I'm not just trying to appease anybody. This is brilliant stuff you've just given us.
Well, thank you very much. We're big fans of yours. I listen to your show. I greatly appreciate it. It's been an honor, pinch me moment to get to be on.
Thanks for hanging out with me while I featured an elite entrepreneur who took his vision to reality. What a powerful interview full of marketing and promotional knowledge and wisdom. I learned so much. I learned how to explode my referrals with Seth Greene. He is such a great marketer. He really knows how to promote, and I'm going to get his book in just a moment. We talked about how he landed a $100 million pension fund when he was just a rookie. That is, I know I'm saying this again and again, the same thing, just so powerful. It's so brilliant to interview the CEO of who you want to do business with. It's great. It's great. And it's not done enough. And there's so many podcasters out there that could really expand their business a lot on just that one point. We talked about how to really stop cold calling forever. You may not have ever done it. I did, as I mentioned in this interview, and we didn't have podcasting back then, and we do now. You don't have to cold call. You can have a warm, good relationship with someone. You can interview them, and then you can talk about doing business. Now, that's the way to do it. That's the relationship method, right? We talked about some of the biggest mistakes professionals make when they try to get more referrals. And we talked, of course, about the biggie, how to explode our referrals and our word of mouth. We talked about how to do the interview and then publish that. We talked about that is like so brilliant. And you're getting that person that you've interviewed to promote your blog, to promote the interview, to promote the book. He's promoting you quite a bit. And you can easily get dozens of people pushing and promoting you year after year after year. And behind all this, I know I've said it so many times, it's all about promotion, marketing, and it's learning how to have a chat with the type of person that you do business with. And you can do that with podcasting. It's a great door opener. And please remember supporting this show with a nice review or comments on the video platforms. And of course, you can go to DUrso.com/review. And yeah, I know I've asked you a few times, but please share with a few friends. There's a few more friends that would love to know this information, and they will appreciate if you let them know about it. All right? Okay. Let's use this and let's help you move on your journey to success. Thanks. And remember, just take action. Success awaits those who persevere and remain steadfast despite the odds. Sow good seeds, do good deeds, and join me on the next episode of The Tony DUrso Show.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's edition of The Tony DUrso Show with his key influencers. Be sure to tune in again next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Influencers channel.